So today we're going to be taking a look at a controversial scenario where the religions of the world go to war. Now, why do I say controversial? Because this map probably has a lot of issues on it, and I know it has a lot of issues on it. We have the predominant religions of the world going to war between each other. We have Christianity, but not just Christianity. I'll get into that in a second. We have Islam, we have Buddhism, Hinduism, and that's really it. We have Japan doing their thing, and also Israel with Judaism. But everyone else, yeah, this is going to be a crazy video. So if you guys do enjoy it, make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're trying to get to 200,000 subscribers or whatever major milestone we're trying to get to next. And let's go ahead and jump straight into it. So you might be asking yourself, okay, so he did divide up Christianity, but he didn't divide up Islam between Sunni and Shia. Well, the reason I did that is because if Christianity was all on one team, it would look something like this, and that is not fair. Now, okay, so Africa, man, looking at that map really made my head hurt. This is probably incorrect. Now, I will say that if your country is the wrong color for predominant religion, that means that whatever color it is was a close second. For example, Canada, I had them as Protestant. They're not. They're Catholic. But I think I got most of it down. What really surprised me is that Australia is Catholic, despite being colonized by the Protestant United Kingdom. But now to get to the fighting, which will go left to right. The United States is going to have to solo all of the Americas. They are pretty much the only predominant Protestant nation other than like the Bahamas, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, and randomly Guyana. But yeah, the USA, boy, you're in for fun. They are first going to attack Canada, going into southern Ontario and other parts of Canada. At the same time though, they will probably be forced to invade Mexico just to get themselves a secured border, no pun intended. As for the rest of the Protestant nations in South America and Central America and even North America, they are gone. So it's just the USA and Greenland now. And I say just the USA and Greenland because we're going to hop on over to Europe where the Protestants get jumped. I will say that Czechia and Vietnam are both atheist countries, I think predominantly, but we're not doing atheism because it wouldn't work. It would only be a few countries. So I just put the next second most popular religion, which I think in Czechia might actually be Catholicism and not Protestant. See, this video is flawed, but this is the best I can do without having to draw a whole new map of the world, and I can't do that right now. So Germany gets jumped and the Catholics will start to invade into Sweden and Norway. I'm going down to the Middle East real quick just to get this out of the way. Yeah, no chance. Same with like you're screwed. And then we have the Islamic nations invading into Ethiopia. Now Ethiopia I think is under its own form of Christianity, but I saw the word Orthodox, so I was like, ha! Yes, my stupid American brain put them on the purple team, which is Eastern Orthodox Christianity. No matter, doesn't matter. But back up to Europe now, one thing I found interesting was that each of the Baltic nations has a different form of primary Christianity. Who would have known? Lithuania is Catholic, apparently Latvia is Protestant, and Estonia is Eastern Orthodox. But speaking of those Eastern Orthodox, they will go ahead and invade into Albania as well as parts of Bosnia, but their main forces will be focused in on Kazakhstan over here in the Islamic world. Now heading on over to this region, this ought to be fun. India will eventually be able to take out Bangladesh. However, there are much larger issues like, Islam to the west and Buddhism to the east. Japan, they're probably just going to chill for the whole video. But for now, Buddhism will go ahead and focus itself on invading the Philippine Islands, which is a Catholic nation over here in the Caribbean. That is not the Caribbean. In the South China Sea, or I guess you could say the West Philippine Sea. Next, they'll go ahead and go on into the Malaysian place. Yes, the Malaysian place. Over here in Australia, we will see the Australians go ahead and invade their New Zealand brothers. I found it very interesting, like I said earlier, that Australia is Catholic, and then apparently New Zealand is Protestant. I don't know how that split up happened, but it did. Goodbye. And then they will focus forces right on into this part of Indonesia. Going on over to Africa, it's going to be pretty rough for all of the Christian nations here because Islam is going to roll on through these northern regions of the religion. South Sudan is lost pretty quickly before they move on into Kenya. And Islam's main goal here is probably to take on all of Africa, get all of this land under your religion, and then fight back against the Christians in the north, and maybe eventually against the Buddhists and the Hindus in the east. Let's check in on the US. How are they doing? Well, they're doing pretty good. They have taken out Canada and have essentially capitulated it. In fact, I will go ahead and make that official. They capitulate Canada. Wouldn't be too hard to do in real life, which is kind of worrisome if you're Canadian. I'm recording this on March 15th. It releases on like May 7th. So hopefully Canada still exists by then. I'm sure they will. Anyway, the US now is focused on Mexico to an extent. However, the troop numbers building up against them are getting pretty large. So let's take a quick vacation into the Caribbean, taking out Cuba, Hispaniola, taking back Puerto Rico, and then liberating the island of Jamaica. Now back on over to Europe. We have the Catholics and the Eastern Orthodox completely splitting up Finland and the other Scandinavian countries before the Eastern Orthodox start to invade into Lithuania, Kaliningrad, and into Poland. Now, Kaliningrad is also another one of those atheist spots. I didn't look up what their actual religion was. They are a part of Russia, which is a majority Eastern Orthodox, so I will go ahead and correctly color them. But Europe is going to be interesting because you have Catholicism in like a majority of the continent, but Eastern Orthodox also is right here. And then you have Islam, which will challenge both of these religions. So we really probably won't see like a dominant form of Christianity take over all of Europe, and that's mostly, like I said, because of Islam. But now over here to the Southeast Asian area, the Buddhists will start to invade islands in Indonesia, while the Oceanics work to do the same, taking over island by island. The main goal here is to take out Indonesia, so these guys can focus on much bigger issues like this, and that, and eventually this. And the strategy here, or the theory is here, that you probably shouldn't attack these other large religions until you get the smaller ones like gotten away with. So we probably won't see Hinduism and Buddhism fight until all of Indonesia is taken. And even then, like Hinduism might fight against Islam while Buddhism fights against Eastern Orthodox. These are two very stacked religions. They have a lot of people under their belt. So why waste your time now when you can waste your time elsewhere? Back down in Africa, Islam's growing front line is indeed growing. I do really feel bad about Central Africa. I know I didn't get this right, so I'm sorry. But there is some Protestantism down here, or Lutheranism, Protestantism? I can't say it. The red religion. They are going to go ahead and meet up with Islam, not in a friendly regard, but they will split the remainder of Catholicism in the south. For some reason, Lesotho is apparently a Catholic nation. I don't know how that happened. They were British. And Madagascar is as well, but they are taken out by the red team. And now Africa is split between two religions, Islam and Christianity, like in real life, but more so Protestant Christianity. Hopping now on over to India, they are now going to go ahead and take out Sri Lanka and then start to invade Pakistan. Oh, I'm so sorry, Pakistan. In like 4 of my past 5 videos, Pakistan has gotten invaded by India. I'm sorry, you guys will get your lick back one day. Let's check in on the Americans. Still going well. They are making slow but sure progress against Mexico and the other Catholic nations. It's just that like it's getting harder and harder to invade as more and more South American troops line this border. And most likely what we see here is like not a whole lot of cooperation amongst the religions across the world. So like the US probably isn't getting help from like the UK and South Africa, more so because these guys are focused on defending themselves. Same thing with Islam, like Indonesia probably isn't getting any help. Actually, they might, because Islam is so large, like they might be able to send some help down to Indonesia, but it's really not worth their time because eventually you're going to see this happen. And we have Islam losing a very important nation over here in the southeast. But with them wiped out, the Buddhists can now focus on something else, and that something else is invading Japan. Now, Japan is also a Buddhist nation, I do want to say, but Shinto is technically more popular than Buddhism, but at the same time, Buddhism is extremely popular in Japan, so we're just going to make them go away really quickly and fall under Buddhist rule, which will then prompt the Buddhists to go ahead and start their invasion into the Eastern Orthodox area of Russia. This will go extremely well because Russia is very distracted elsewhere, more so with Islam and with the Catholics in Europe. Speaking of the Catholics in Europe, they will actually start to push back the Eastern Orthodox up in Finland, as well as in the areas that they have lost so far. They now start to invade into both Kaliningrad and Estonia, but the Eastern Orthodox will continue their invasion into Central Asia, taking all of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan. There are definitely bigger issues though, like really bad. This is bad. Russia's losing all of their oil reserves in Siberia, and there's not much that they're doing about it because the Buddhists will continue their march west. Time for our United States update. Yep, they are still holding it down for the Protestants over here in Central America as they now go down to the Darien Gap, and they don't dare to go right into South America because they're just going to hold a defensive front and just maybe supply England or supply down here to South Africa. All right, maybe we shouldn't do that. No, okay, yeah. So Islam is prevailing very well in Africa, and it's likely that the red team will be one of the first to lose outside of the United States, who once again is just going to hold it down until someone tells them not to, which means the main focus of a war is now between the rest of the religions over here. The Catholics are kind of in a pickle on what they should do. They could go invade the UK, which would be very costly, but at the end of the day, it would be a benefit for them because now they have the UK on their team, basically. That's what that means when they invade a country like Germany, for example. They're not like resisting, they're helping them out. That's how this scenario is kind of working. So Islam is probably getting the most benefit right now, if not Buddhism, because all of these countries, despite being invaded, are now technically on the green team, which means that they are helping them out in their war against the South. So, what do we do about the UK? Who knows? Let's just fight the Russians for now. Why not? And we're not the only ones fighting the Russians, apparently. So now we're getting to kind of like the stalemate part of the video. Like, for example, there's a stalemate between the North and the South Americans. There's a stalemate sort of between the Europeans and the Eastern Orthodox. There is a stalemate between the Buddhists and the Hindus, stalemate between the Buddhists and the Catholics down here. The only place that there isn't a stalemate is in South Africa, where they get ran over. Islam prevails in Africa, but they also see that Russia is slightly weaker and that they could benefit from having the Catholics take over Russia while they also do the same, meaning that we're going to attack Russia now instead of the Catholics. Kind of like a pecking order, like get the weakest out of the way first. So the Europeans will breeze through the Eastern Orthodox territory, while we see the Muslims do much of the same. Eventually they break through into the Caucasian mountains, while the Catholics are doing a Germany in World War II move. After a few more months-ish of fighting, Russia and Eastern Orthodox is gone. This is the first religion to fall, I believe, and to no fault of their own, they were just kind of outpowered by 3 other religions that are in the top 3 arguably. So yeah, now the stalemate issue is broken. Russia was kind of the one holding that up, but now we're gonna have Islam versus Catholicism and Hinduism versus Buddhism. Buckle up. But first, an update on the Americans. Still nothing. No change. Oh, okay, there goes the British. They finally did it. So, in light of their war with Islam, which is about to commence, they figured that they should go ahead and just get the UK on their side so that it's Europe versus everyone else. They've achieved that, and now they can start fighting each other. Islam seeks to strike first where they have lost ground, so in the Balkan Peninsula. They'll push up and liberate all of the Balkans. More so they'll liberate Albania and Bosnia and invade everyone else. Meanwhile, the Catholics will make a play into northern Africa, going into Morocco and taking over the northern Algerian and Tunisian coasts. However, they are losing ground over here in Russia as the Muslims push closer and closer towards Ukraine and Belarus. Meanwhile, we see Hinduism stop doing that because we have a war to fight with these guys. And unfortunately for India, they are at a slight disadvantage with the likes of China, all of Southeast Asia, half of Indonesia, Korea, and Japan and the Philippines and Taiwan versus basically just them. So, like, yeah, it's not gonna go well. And Islam sees this and they're like, hey, why don't we just like maybe pause on the Catholics real quick and go like take out half of India and get that on our side. So Islam will now hold a defensive against the Christians, which admittedly doesn't go well for them. They lose even more of North Africa and a little bit of Europe. But in the meantime, they are able to go into India, and with the help of the Buddhists over here in the east, India gets invaded and eventually split into 2. However, unfortunately for Islam, we have the Buddhists getting a majority of it, but they might have a little bit more population. I'm honestly not too sure what the population split of India looks like in this case. So now Islam is going to go ahead and like cross their fingers that the Buddhists go after the Catholics in Australia before they do, because once again, that pecking order thing, invade the weaker ones before you invade the stronger ones, which they are now hoping gives them enough time to overrun Europe. They're also hoping for something to happen over here, mostly the Protestants to win against the Catholics. But like I said earlier, the US is probably digging in and just holding a defensive front right now because they really don't have all the resources and stuff they need to invade South America. So with Islam now having a little bit of India on their side, as well as the rest of Africa and almost all of the important parts of Russia, they were able to kick the Catholics right back out of North Africa, re-establish Bosnia once again, and invade into Serbia. A pretty tough campaign is made to connect up with Ukraine and Romania, in which they're able to do, and now they are starting to roll up against the Catholics. Immediately, Europe will request help from South America, who will very, very haphazardly send it. This is a big mistake. The United States sees that South America is sending its assets up into Europe, and they're like, hey, does this mean that we can like... That's exactly what that means, America. Invade Venezuela. This is a super costly campaign for the United States to do, and it honestly isn't even worth it. Sure, they get the northern coast, but South America immediately starts to stop supplying Europe, and instead starts to supply itself, meaning that they are going to start to, little by little, push the United States right back out of South America. But for now, this is the distraction that Islam wanted, so they can finish off all of the Eastern Orthodox territory in Central-ish Eastern Europe. A landing is made in southern Italy, and very slowly Islam makes its way up the Italian peninsula. This is kind of like a big issue for Europe because this is like one of the main Catholic countries in Europe at that, being of course that Roman Catholicism is huge. Coming on down to Australia now, Islam once again gets lucky as the Buddhists do go ahead and commit to that pecking order thing and start going on to the Catholics. They'll take a series of these islands with that Chinese Navy, and then Australia is cooked. Compared to China alone, Australia would lose, but with all of the might of Buddhism under one flag, they're cooked. So now our world map is looking like this. It's basically Buddhism, Islam versus the two branches of Christianity that can't get along. Even if these two united forces, they would probably be cooked because at this point Islam has become incredibly strong, but that is in large part thanks to just scenario circumstances. For example, India has its own religion, meaning that it didn't have any allies other than itself, and of course in the wake against all of Islam and all of Buddhism, India would probably lose that fight. Hence, it gets split between the two, which powers both of these countries a lot more. India's economy, super helpful, but also their population can be used for military purposes. I say that in a very non-Soviet way. But it's just, unfortunately for like Europe, the cards just aren't there for them to play, and Islam is going to continue their advance into Europe, now hitting critical countries like France and Spain, going into Iberia, taking the whole thing, kicking the Catholics out of their own home territory, and then invading the remnants of the Protestant countries, going into the UK, taking Ireland, and Islam has taken over all of Europe. This is very important. However, there is going to be an ensuing battle happening now between Buddhism and Islam. Who would win? All of Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and like Russia versus all of these guys? Would be an interesting battle. Population numbers would definitely favor the green team. Military would also probably favor the green team. Economy might actually be on the yellow team's favor, but we'll have to see because we're looking at these guys first. So yes, now both of these American countries understand that their time is coming to an end. Whoever wins this mighty battle will go ahead and engulf them. So we might as well kill each other while we're at it. The US sends all of its forces down into South America, and very slowly they're able to make progress against them. It's not worth it. They're just burning manpower, but hey, might as well use it because there's no hope for us. We're doomed. And to make things worse, a landing happens, and yeah, Islam starts to invade right on into South America. You know who else is invading South America? The Buddhists are here. And all of a sudden, South America goes from like holding out against just one religion straight to losing to the remaining three religions in the world. I do have to say that the red team is solely being carried by America. At this point, America is very fortunate because of its geography and a lack of strong opponents around it. There's a whole ocean separating America from both Asia and Europe and Africa, but we see now that even that has its limits. So, who's gonna win? Islam or Buddhism? That's a great question. To be honest with you, I think Islam would probably win this war, only because they have the numbers, being population, of course. So they will sweep through the remainder of Russia, and we've seen this in the video last week. If you're watching this presently, if you're watching this like anytime past May 7th, you're gonna be like, what? But hey, yeah, they're gonna lose. Buddhism will lose against Islam. They will reclaim all of Indonesia, move into Australia, and do I even have to tell you what happens over here? America would finally lose. And you know, the strategy of these religions could be a lot different. This video could go in very many ways. Islam got very lucky with how I ended up doing this scenario, specifically with Buddhism focusing in on Hinduism as opposed to maybe Buddhism and Hinduism working together to take out Islam. We also maybe could have seen like the two European religions work together, like for example Catholicism and Eastern Orthodox work together to take on Islam. Maybe a coalition formed against it, but then at that point that's just like straight up unfair for Islam. I tried to make this video fair. I know that this video is gonna get hate. I'm gonna get heated in the comments. I'll probably get death threats too, so I'm sorry if I offended you. I really am. But Islam wins. Now, currently in the world, there are 2.3 billion Christians and 1.9 billion Muslims, followed by 1.2 billion Hindus, and then around 500 million Buddhists. China is one of those nations that like has a lot of religion, but also is it's mostly atheist, I think. Yeah, it's around 33% of the population following it, which is the largest, and that is a majority, so that's why it was Buddhist. But yeah, hey, you're not safe. Get out of there. But yeah, and with those numbers that I just mentioned, also remember that Christianity got divided up because otherwise it would be a clean sweep for it. It would be a very short video at that case, but I could redo this video with even more religions within it, such as, you know, splitting Islam into Sunni and Shia. We could add atheism into it. That would make for a much more interesting scenario. And then we can also do like the more regional religions as well, But that didn't happen today. This was a very broad video in general. So I hope you guys weren't too offended. Once again, I do apologize if you were. To me, this is just me, you know, changing colors on the map. But for other people, this could mean a lot more. So I do understand that. I myself am not religious, so I didn't really have any bias within this. Yeah, sure, I live in the US, which is Protestant, but once again, I'm not religious, so I don't really have any kind of like favorability or bias towards any religions. Completely neutral. So yeah, that's just me trying to clear my name a little bit more. It's truthful. When I was younger, I was sort of religious, but I never was really like super into it. And now I officially don't follow any religion. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's scenario. Please don't kill me in the comments. And hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. All the support is greatly appreciated. This is the last pre-recorded video I'm doing. When this video comes out, I will be home from college in 1 week. I'm super grateful for that. And I will see you all in the next video. And of course, thank you to all our super fans. This includes CTG on YT, Geeksco, Euroball, Serminator, Augusto, King Cheese, A Norwegian, RS, Gail Martinez, Australian Geo Guy, America and Canada and UK, Zaylance, Lazo Does Nothing, Freezioy, Laser Tase, Nevada Garbage Trucks, Pablo Sigma Cat, Death Strider X, Hammer Toad 45, and DW Cool Dude. Once again, thank you guys.